Welcome to Tradies Who Lead, the podcast about everyday leadership for everyday legends. I'm Ashley Baltenki, a diesel mechanic by trade and your host. In this podcast, we hear from trade leaders from all industries and job titles about how they show up as everyday leaders so that we can learn from them and level up our leadership skills on site. In this episode, we cover the power of mindfulness, presence, and leading from within to support us to lead others better, but also to be more effective in our work and personal lives. Today's guest brings calm to the chaos and clarity to the construction site, no matter where we are in our careers. Stacey Combe isn't a coach. She's a mindful career mentor for the building and construction industry. Stacey's approach to mentorship is to partner with people in navigating the pressure, expectations, and mental load that come with working in fast-paced, high-stakes environments. Her work is grounded in mindfulness, not as something separate from the day-to-day grind, but as a practical tool to help people stay present and make better decisions in the moments that matter through small, practical changes. Her mission is to support hundreds of people across the industry, from site managers to designers to office staff, in handling pressure better, reducing mental load, and feeling more in control of their workday. Welcome to the podcast, Stacey.
Thank you, Ashley, for having me.
It's a pleasure. So the first question I ask every guest is, what is leadership to you?
Leadership to me is being self-managed mindfully. That's it.
That was so succinct.
Yeah.
Do you mind expanding on that a bit more? What does that mean?
Yeah, sure. This is coming from experience, the self-leadership side of things. It is being able to look and understand and see how you're feeling, going and moving and behaving throughout the day, and know when to pull back, know when to change direction, know when to course correct, know what needs to be, I don't like the word fixed, but know what needs to be altered so we can move on to a better solution, a better outcome, or change the direction of our day, but have the tools and techniques to be able to support us to do that. Self-leadership is so important, but I also think it is so important to be able to lean on people too. So if we do need support, or if we do need to ask for help, or if we do need, anything from our colleagues and our team members and leadership teams or whoever it is, super, super important to be able to reach out and go, hey, I need a hand, or whatever it is. So self-leadership isn't about doing everything on your own. It's really important that we've got that support. But to me, from an individual perspective and a mindfulness perspective, it's about having the right tools so you can lead yourself through communication, through different pressures and things that come up, especially in the building and construction industry that happen all the time. Yeah, so that's self-leadership to me. Yeah.
You've been in the building and construction industry for a long time, and where did your leadership journey begin in that space? Was there a moment, or was it gradual that you kind of came to this place of taking leadership in your life?
I was in the industry for just shy of a decade, and I left around 3 years ago, and I went into the plumbing industry from there, but now I'm back in the building industry, but from a different lens. So supporting people from the outside of it. But during that particular time, I was in pre-construction and I was doing all the selections, variations, plan changes, display homes, all of that. And through that time, I had an autonomous role. Basically, I went in, had my eyes closed and could do my job. And I had multiple clients at once at any given time. And what that required me to do was really tap into my focus, my communication, my attention, my presence, all of that. So I wasn't making mistakes. But over time, I got busier, the pressure became quite heavy, and I started to see a lot of faults and mistakes and things happen. They became more significant and more costly, because we all know mistakes can cost time and money, which we want to avoid. And that's because I wasn't present. I wasn't paying as much attention as I should have been, not intentionally, of course, but because I had so much on my plate, for lack of a better phrase or word. So that was, for me, a really pivotal time in my life and in the industry as well, where I could see what I was lacking in terms of self-leadership, my role, myself as a person, how I was carrying myself, and the tools and skills that I really did need to work on and need moving forward.
It's really interesting. You, I guess, started that talking about being autonomous and, I guess, working by yourself and managing yourself, is that accountability was really, I guess, the shape of your leadership until you were overcapacitated or overextended maybe, or like, as we all experience in this industry, there's a lot of time pressure. There's a lot of stakeholders who might be helpful or unhelpful, and obviously a lot of emotions and expectations to manage. Is there a mistake you've made as a leader, and would you be able to share that or talk about what you learned from that? Or do you kind of find your lack of mindfulness and lack of awareness was that main mistake?
I did. I made some big mistakes. So when you are consulting as a design consultant, or you're consulting in new home builds, that's where I was in the residential construction sector, you are consulting and you're writing and selecting and paying attention and communicating all at the same time. So multitasking 101, which I try and teach not to do, but that's what I was doing. And I would write the wrong thing down. Again, unintentionally, but what that caused was the wrong tile sent to site, the wrong door sent to site, a door I had, maybe written on a plan that was meant to swing the other way and it didn't swing the right, it was all of those things. And they cost money and time. Again, they also, let people down, and no one wants to do that. And again, it was never an intentional thing, but there's just such an ongoing effect with that, like a domino effect. I did one small thing in such a crucial part that everything else can sort of go pear-shaped, you could say. So yes, there were definite mistakes, and I guess it was part of the roles. It was part of what I did. I mean, I wasn't making lots of them, but as I said, towards the end, and the capacity that I had that I could hold and the pressure that I was under was a little bit more difficult than normal. But yeah, definitely did make some mistakes, and it's cliche and you hear it quite a bit. It's not, I don't look at them as failures. At the time I didn't know how to let it go. I had a lot of guilt. I had a lot of shame around letting people down and doing the wrong thing, quote unquote. I couldn't let that go. But now I look at that as a lesson, like what could I have extracted from that time as a lesson and move forward? Because again, it wasn't intentional, but things happen to you or for you. So you can look at it and go, okay, what needs to be changed, course corrected, all of the things that we spoke about before. Yeah.
I've definitely struggled with that mindset shift myself. I was raised in a family where mistakes weren't well received, and I took that with me as an apprentice into the workplace and found that I didn't really have many examples of my role models or my mentors and the mistakes they made to feel like it was safe to make those mistakes, even though logically we all know that we all make mistakes, we're human and there's no getting around it. But how do you actually go from that mindset shift of this is a mistake to this is a lesson and I can move on and let go and learn from it?
From a mindfulness perspective, we use acceptance a lot. So having an approach of acceptance and using it as a solutions-based. So what I mean is, if I wrote something on a selection and the wrong door went out to site, it doesn't necessarily mean that I don't care or that I'm not taking responsibility, but I'm looking at that mistake from here on and going, what went wrong? How can I solve this for next time? And how can I let go so I don't attach to it and let it carry through the week? Because that was what was happening. I was holding on to that one error, and that energy was moving into every other day, and it was challenging me every other day when I needed to focus and pull my attention in to the other clients that needed me, the colleagues that needed me, the team on site that needed me as well. And it's about having a deep understanding of your present awareness, being able to bring yourself back over and over again to the present moment as often as we can through the tools and techniques that you've got to support you, which is the self-leadership management side of things. So we can learn to let go and not have any judgment around it. And that's why I think I love the practice of mindfulness so much. It's because we aren't holding on to that judgment. We aren't being unkind to ourselves and beating ourselves up internally over something that was quote unquote out of our control to an extent. It was an unintentional mistake, learning to let go, accepting it, and looking at it from a solutions-based lens.
Wow. I'm quite familiar with mindfulness, having gone on my own journey. But for any of our listeners who maybe have heard of it or don't really understand what it is, could you explain it, and then maybe also explain what it might look like or feel like, just so I guess people might be able to understand it from a more practical point of view?
So mindfulness traditionally, it's moment to moment awareness. So it's being able to have the skill to bring yourself back into the present moment without judgment. It's basically attention training. So we live in a world where our attention, especially at work, is pulled from pillar to post. You know, we've got emails, we've got phone calls, we've got people calling our names. You know, I think I put something up on LinkedIn today where I was like, I just remember leaning over my computer desk, checking for like an urgent email. I had plans under a desk, coffee in one hand, trying to sift through to see. And I'm like, that's not, I just remember it so clearly. So mindfulness is about doing that one thing at a time, noticing our thoughts, behaviors, feelings, and having the ability to check in and take those moments of pause. For example, going into a meeting, checking the emails. Can we check in with ourselves, our body? How are we feeling? Can we adjust ourselves or take a moment, 30 seconds, not long? I know we don't have time to leave our jobs or leave our jobs for an hour and come back. We don't have that ability or luxury, but it's having the tool so you can come back and go, all right, what do I need right now? Do I need to step away from this particular task I'm doing? Have a little bit of a break, have a bit of a reset, come back, and then proceed. It's also a practice where you have formal and informal practices, so like meditation in the morning. Body scans, also fantastic mindfulness practice. They're both formal. They can be done before and after work. And then you've got the informal tools, which are on-the-job tools, I like to call them. So they're things that you can, wear around you like a tool belt, you could say, that you can lean on and reach for. And that includes things like your breath, your different techniques that you go through, and also communication. Communication is a big one in mindfulness too. It's just being able to listen intently and be present. So it's just about being present.
When it comes to the workplace, I can imagine from my own experience that sometimes we receive the advice that we need to take a break or take a moment to breathe, but it's not really a part of our natural habits. And sometimes it's easier to just keep working. So it's like we're too busy for the 30 seconds, which sounds ridiculous. And we all know it's a little bit ridiculous, but could you share, I guess, what your work life or even your whole life looks like now that you have implemented practices like that to support your mindfulness and your self-leadership?
When we learn mindfulness, we can't switch. We don't turn into different people when it comes to work and home. It kind of comes with you. Even though I work with people in their careers, predominantly I don't work with people based around their entire lives, like applying mindfulness to their entire life. It's just for their work. But again, once you apply something to your work, you bring it home. Like we look at ways to transition home because sometimes we leave a lot of our work energy home with us, and it's hard to switch off. So that's been quite a big one for me. I had little babies at the time, and I've got 8-year-old twins, but back then I was in the thick of it with them. They were tiny when I was right in the thick of my career, and I would come home and they were being cared for, and I would have my bag on my back and still in that like wild work energy, and I would just literally come in and turn on the oven, like to actually do something, not to be. And I never had that understanding that I need to learn to be and be in each moment. So because I was in such a, like you were saying, we don't know how to stop even for 30 seconds because we're used to that mentality of go, 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 that I was taking that home. And I think a lot of people probably listening are like, yeah, it's so easy to do. And sometimes you don't know you're doing it. But the transition's been good for me, whether it's honestly having a cup of tea, going into the garden, not doing anything, not doing the dishwasher, not doing dinner, not doing anything, like just having a little bit of a break between work and home. That transition, it's almost like you switch into the home part of your life when you get back from work.
The power of a pause.
I know, and you're right. I mean, 30 seconds, you think, oh, it's, can feel like a lot. And I get it. And I do. I've been in the industry for quite a while and I understand. But over time, I think it becomes like anything, a habit, you could say, or just part of you. You don't have to do mindfulness anymore. You just become mindful and it becomes second nature for you to reach into those tools and go, okay, this is how I'm feeling. I'm just going to tap in here, do this thing, and then proceed. So, yeah.
What strategies do you have or do you share with the people you mentor about managing the high work expectations in the building and construction sector without overperforming or burning out?
Regular self-check-ins first. Yeah, always. So for an example is I never checked in on myself, on my body, on my mind, or anything like that. I just went into meetings feeling however I felt, stressed, overwhelmed, and you just push through and you just push through the pressure. But, we're very good at going into our day and looking at our calendar and going, oh, yep, we're back to back. I've got this meeting, I've got this going on. But why can't we insert little mindful breaks as well? Why can't we look in there and go, yep, 3 times a day, I'm going to do this, or I'm going to do a grounding exercise, or I'm going to make sure that I take that minor break in between these big meetings or tasks that I've got going on. So definitely a regular self-check-in, and that could mean mind or body. And also communication skills is a big one. I think from industry experience as well, having a skill like communication, I don't believe it's a soft skill. I think it's something that is underrated and needs to be worked on every day. I don't think we'll ever perfect it, but to have a beautiful communication with people that you're working with to avoid mistakes and also deepen relationships is really, really powerful, and something that I also teach within the work that I do, because to be able to be seen, heard, and understood, to be able to get the full message. So when you're talking to somebody, a lot of the time we are excited, and that's okay, and we're like into a conversation, but we might not get the full entire message, and we walk away and we're like, what was that again? And we might make a guess, or we might go back to that person and we're wasting time, or we're, making an error from not listening correctly. But having those skills as well, and just having that reminder when we go to communicate, whether it's with our clients or our team members, is a really big one.
I genuinely, and I've said it a few times on social media as well, I genuinely don't understand how we don't make more mistakes from miscommunication. But then I sometimes think maybe it's because we're just not even aware that it's, I guess, a hazard that we face in the workplace. But I think everyone has that story of giving someone instructions and then going and being like, that is not at all what I actually wanted you to do. And sometimes I think old school mentality, or I guess preserving ourselves, sometimes we'll say, well, it's the person's fault for not understanding what I meant. But actually it is the responsibility of us to communicate effectively. And I like that you brought communication into the conversation, because we have to be present in conversations to remember and pay attention and pick up on cues. And whether we are that formal leader or just leading ourselves and leading how we want to show up in the workplace, if we're not paying attention to the cues of other people, sometimes we do miss really important details, not just about the job, but about the person and maybe the state they're in, or how they might be understanding us.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you can feel when somebody is kind of detached, or you can feel when they're in a rush and they want to sort of jump out of the conversation. And it's also communication from a team perspective. I know being even in meetings with multiple people or presentations or conferences or whatever, team meetings that pop up, just to give the person speaking, your wholehearted presence. And that person will deliver their message, will, nail the meeting. Everyone around will be, involved. And it just sets a tone for such more successful experience, I think, for everybody. Yeah, communications, it's big.
The final question I ask all my guests is, what is your advice to tradies or people in the trade sector about how they can show up as everyday leaders?
So just back to the acceptance piece. So to have a really deep presence around acceptance. So when things go wrong, it's not to be harsh on yourself for a start, and to look at it again from that acceptance solutions based lens, to do regular self check-ins, and to be patient is probably like that has been a big game changer for me as well. Everything felt rushed all the time, and that was because I was really busy. And I think a lot of the time on site or in the office as well, we have those same pressures and deadlines especially. And we don't need to rush under pressure. We need to be present under pressure, because it'll still, I always laugh. I'm always saying to my husband, oh my gosh, we've forgotten something for dinner. And I rush to the shops, right? But it's the same amount of time of me driving to the shops, rushing, or not rushing at all. Like, you get there, but you're just in a different state. So it's the same as work. It's how can we move through this pressure, and how can we reach this deadline feeling different, being grounded, being present. Yes, there's always going to be pressure and stress and all of that angst, but how can we do it calmly and just a little bit more easier, I guess, from our day to day?
It's been really great to unpack that aspect of leadership that does start wholly with us, and the insight and the really practical advice that you've shared about what it actually looks like, or what we can actually do to be present, has been really powerful. Thank you so much for everything you've shared, and I'm sure all of your mentees are learning a lot.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me, Ash. Amazing.
If you enjoyed today's chat, please like this episode, subscribe to Tradies Who Lead, and follow us on socials for more content from your favourite guests. Thanks for joining me for this episode. We'll be back with another everyday leadership legend in 2 weeks.